Last year, 19 students committed suicide. The year before that it was 6, and the year before that 17. Now those are figures just from Kota. For the rest of the country, according to NCRB, between 2011 and 2016, over 49,000 students committed suicide in our country. Why is this happening? Are we creating a state where there is a student suicide crisis? To discuss all that and much more, I have an extremely eminent panel here with me today. I have with me Professor Anurag Mehra, who's on the faculty of IIT Mumbai, Professor Sharma, who's a professor at the Indira Gandhi National Open University. I have Dr. M.L. Agarwal and Dr. Sonal Rajora, who's an educationist. Thank you all for joining me today. Let me start with you, Professor Mehra. We keep talking about pressures and we keep talking about coaching institutions putting this pressure, but what about really the pressure from home? The pressure from parents, isn't that where it starts from?
I think so. I think it's one of the most important things for students, because parental pressure is hard to sort of counter and comes with a lot of other emotions like obligations, guilt, also the burden of expectations that students tend to feel that what parents are saying is right in some sense, and I think it's also the prime reason why many of them are not able to step back if things don't work properly. Of course, not true of everybody, but it's a hard thing to say, you know, I don't want to do this, even though you want me to do this. So I think parental pressure is an extremely significant thing in terms of driving students towards coaching.
Professor Sharma, there is also this whole interesting aspect about the fact that all this pressure that comes from parents, and you know, everybody wants their, well, not everybody, but a lot of our parents want their children to be doctors and engineers. But if you go out into the field, there are really not that many jobs anymore. So why is it that year after year after year, we insist on pushing our children onto these fields?
See, what I'll say is that we have not been able to create many areas which are relevant to the society. We have not promoted dance, we have not promoted arts, we have not promoted painting, and similar other areas of knowledge. Unfortunately, our school sector has not really been well researched. You have a University Grants Commission to think about higher education. You don't have a school education commission till now. Who looks after a school education commission, or who looks after a school education as such? Nobody as such. It's the ministry itself which manages and handles. So that's definitely an area which needs to be looked into. And the second thing is that safest areas are getting into an engineering college, so that at least you become an engineer if you don't get a government job, which is
so basically it's a safety net.
A safety net. So everybody wants students, parents, and so the peer group also wants to get into something which can ensure some sort of a job, if not a government job, at least a private company or somewhere.
There is a certain amount of pressure that is coming, whether it's from parents or you know, peer groups or society at large, but it's not translating into a job, a safe job at the end of it. So why is it that it's constant and it's every year?
Look, you'll have to look at the development of education since 47. Why did we create the IITs first of all? Why did we not create many schools right after the independence? We focused on creating good high-end engineering colleges like Indian Institute of Technology. So everybody in these 70 years has just been thinking about getting into IIT. If not, then NITs. If not, then a private college. So the whole nation's focus became getting into IIT. You will have to look at the development and planning of education and what after school education. So it has been completely derailed. We have not been able to think. See, you have engineering colleges in all countries. Why don't you have similar problem in the developed countries? Why do American children not aspire to get only in a similar or one type of colleges?
According to WHO, suicides, 80% suicides, more than 80% suicides are due to unrecognized, wrongly treated, undertreated psychiatric disorders, and depression is the biggest killer. 80% psychiatric, 80% suicides are due to depression, or every hour, not the students, in 1 hour one student commits suicide, but in every 40 minutes there is a suicide in the. So this is more in young people.
But Dr. Agarwal, you're saying it's because of depression,
Yeah.
but depression can only be aggravated further by stress, right?
I am coming to the point. Depression, suicide is more in those depression. Reason is not in the environment, but reason in the, there is biological and hereditary reasons. Reason itself in the mind of the person. There is neurons.
But Dr. Agarwal, are you saying that genetically a person is predisposed to committing suicide?
So
Are you trying to say that all these they're all predisposed to committing suicide?
Listen.
And that nothing contributed to it.
No, this stress can precipitate these symptoms.
I'm sure there are some biological reasons, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But to say that there is absolutely no pressure that is being put on, and that they're predisposed to it, I think that's going to be a bit contradictory, and there's enough people going to...
I will like to mention here, most of the psychiatric disorders, according to WHO, comes first onset is from the 14 to 24 years age in 75%. Not onset of this disease.
It's 15 to 29 actually. It's 15 to 29.
15 to 29.
But just hold on, I want to move ahead. Dr. Rajora, tell me, a child goes from school to a coaching institute. I mean, I don't even want to say quota or whatever, wherever. And suddenly the level of education changes. Even if this is a child who's a topper in school, there is a certain way he or she has given a lot, they're used to a certain amount of discipline. But the minute they go to a coaching institute, it's another ball game altogether. Now, why is there that there is no system whereby this transition is made easier? If, for instance, coaching institutes realize that a child is not being able to cope up, they have counselors who can recognize that fact. They can take that step back. Why is all that not being done? Because somehow it is a fact that coaching in our country is not become about supporting a student. It's become more of an industry for profit.
See, I see a bigger need for counseling of parents rather than students. Now parents are sending the students, their kids to coaching centers. Kids are not taking this decision themselves. And they are not sad, but they are not sending the kids to coaching center or certain competitive exams because they want to secure their career or something like that. Principal goal is to gain social acceptance of themselves and their kids, what they are doing. Like earlier professor was saying, and you were also mentioning that there are a lot of engineers and doctors being produced and they are not getting jobs. So it is not about job security, it is about the temporary satisfaction which parents are getting out of saying that my son has cleared this engineering entrance exam and he is in certain engineering college. Whereas he will be after 4 years fighting with those students who are not from that engineering college or not even engineers. There are no jobs in every field. It is the who will not want to care about their kids, but there is very thin line between parental care, concern and worry. When the parental concern converts into worry, it applies as a pressure onto student. And then this pressure, when you see such pressure, you need to cater to that. There are counselors who will talk to students, but who will give some treatment to them, some exercises, some tips, but nobody is talking to parents. So in my opinion, there is a bigger need to talk to parents.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think as a society, we need to change our outlook towards education. But on the ground, for instance, if there is a system that is failing, that year after year, we are seeing these students go into these coaching institutes and somehow feel such a lot of pressure, feel so much stress that it drives them to take their lives. Surely we can put systems in place. And the reason I say this is because whether it is this huge one-time fee, the child feels, oh, my father has taken a loan to pay some 5 lakh rupee fee. I have to, now keep studying. Or I remember a year back or so, the Quota administration had said, put sensors on ceiling fans. Even something as little as that is not being done. Don't you feel that the coaching industry as a whole has also just shrugged off its responsibility and said, ki, you know, we are here, hum kya kar sakte hain? Parents bhej rahe hain, hamare paas to, you know, there's nothing we can do.
I'm sorry to disagree with you at this point. It is not the trouble of a coaching center. The suicide is a trouble of society. There is so much of expectation from a kid who is not able to decide what to do. He is being driven every time. Like if somebody is scoring good marks, he will be thrown into science class. It's a common practice.
I agree. I'm not saying that it's not a problem of the society, and I want to bring Professor Mehra in here very simply because, Professor Mehra, in your article, you made a very important point. You said that, you know, these kids are in this very high-pressure environment where there are no friends, there are no extracurricular activities, there is nothing. Everything is a competition. Everything is a competition. So, you know, even if you're sitting in a class, you're looking at the person sitting next to you as competition. This is not a friend. And somehow, and the reason I say that, you know, when coaching institutes are shrugging it off is because they're perpetuating it in many ways.
Yeah, so I think the point being made is, it is indeed a social sort of multi-dimensional, multi-factor situation. A lot of people putting pressure. It arises in different ways. But I do think that there is a lot more that coaching classes can actually do, whatever it is, little, big, have more counselors, well, even ceiling fan devices, whatever is there. Of course, though that's it's a kind of a very strange situation. We are hitting at the last mile equipment that people use to commit suicide rather than look at the causes. Then I think there are a lot of other practices which need to be regulated. So to put it a little sort of provocatively, I would say, coaching is needed. It exists because there's a market for it. It exists because there are customers. But it's a bit like, you know, it's a product which needs to be regulated. You have people who come there who undergo so much stress and have to cope with so many things over there. Therefore, for example, take the question of competition. It's not just the person sitting next to you. You have this concept of, you know, star sections, elite sections, and so on. Now, people who are left out of it feel, you know, absolutely worthless. I mean, you're feeling it in your interaction with individuals, you're feeling it in terms of groups. You have parents asking you, why are you not in the elite section? Why are you down in this, you know, section which doesn't get good teachers? So I think there's a lot of it that needs to be regulated. There is a lot of small things that coaching classes should do.
Remember 60s, 70s, you had private tuition. There were no coaching institutes. We did not stop it. Some states said no private coaching by teachers who are employed. We didn't stop it. It went on. Now, as my colleague said, it's an industry now. And the whole revenue of coaching industry is larger than all that government spends on your schooling. You will understand, as he used the phrase market forces, this market force has become much more stronger than any other lobby. The former Secretary Education was very fond of saying, he came from coal ministry, and he said, the mafia in coal is underground, the mafia in education is overground, and one of the mafia in education is the coaching institute. It's so powerful, it's so rich, you cannot stop it. What I would say again, I will reiterate, you have not thought about schooling. You have not streamlined your schooling. Why is it that your schools are bereft of quality? If your schools are bereft of quality, teachers don't go to class, teachers don't teach, what would parents do? Every parent is worried about his or her child, right? So you have to look at the schooling. Why do we not have counselors in the school?
A lot of you are from class 11th, you said, now sort of going into class 12 and all. Is there sort of pressure from your parents to perform in a certain way, or have you been given options? Do you think it's easier?
We rank a school that this school is good, better, or the best. How do we do this ranking? Why not we ranking of the school that this school is good, this school is A category, B and C like this, and we pay for it? Why not we put all the coaching materials and these things in a school so that no need of the coaching will be there in future? Because I have seen that so many students are getting full marks, 100, but even they are not qualified for any competitive examination.
Right. Yeah.
So it means school is doing nothing.
No, very good
Because
question.
I have seen so many schools even after coming from school, every student is taking tuition classes. It means school is not doing anything.
Schools are doing good job, but all schools are not as good as they should be, right? And that's what I'm saying, that you have government schools where we had little attention. In recent past 2 years, what we have done is, we have done a national assessment survey of schools and children who are performing. This is the largest ever survey of schools done anywhere in any country. We did not do in all these years. All the ranking that you see are done by some small private bodies, and they have again a vested interest. Look at them very closely. I'm an educationist. I know what they are doing. If a school invites them to assess and they say you are 3rd grade, nobody will invite them again. Again, that's another business.
Professor Mehra, I wanted to bring you in on this. You teach at IIT, and not particularly IIT, but I suppose higher education. When you see students, are they sort of only, you know, and not to use the word nerdy or geeky in a bad way at all, but is there only that one focus in life that I have to, you know, just crack this? Or is there sort of like a more wholesome education in some that we're making better people? We're not just making a certain kind of professional, but, you know, there is sort of an all-round development, so to speak.
I mean, in a general sense, we have all types of students. People who have a wide variety of interests, people who are not just nerdy, and but I think the numbers are pretty small if you look at this category of students. The largest segment of students is, I mean, they're there, they're good at some things, they are usually focused on studies, but they are also disillusioned with studies for a variety of reasons.
Which
are, for example, burnout from coaching. They're very tired when they come. It's like, you know, I've slogged for 4 years, now I want to relax. Then the system inside is extremely different. You suddenly come into a classroom where you don't have high-speed teaching. It's not kind of codified. It's you sometimes have to respond to open-ended questions. Students also sometimes feel IT professors are boring and ramble on for too long and so on. So I think what starts happening is that at one level they're only equipped to do studying, but another level they're also very disillusioned with what they see. And what we are seeing increasingly now in our own classrooms is that there is a huge mass of disconnected students or weakly connected students. And the reason is not just the entry point, the reason also is there's a big crisis about jobs. What kind of jobs are available? How many engineering disciplines are able to provide the number of jobs required as depending on the strength of that particular branch or discipline? There's a big mismatch. So that in itself breeds a lot of other problems. A student learns very quickly, say first year or middle of second year, that, oh, you know, why am I studying all this? I don't think I'm going to take up a job which is related to what is being done in the class. Then there are additional things, you know, this whole hype about startups. Everybody thinks, I'm going to become a millionaire very soon. I will have a startup. Most startups are actually pretty trivial in some sense.
And shutting down very quickly.
The other thing that students do is they figure out, oh, I mean, it's all useless. Let me spend time watching movies and enjoying life. So there are plenty of things that happen. And so the answer to your question that you posed is that there is a very small minority of students who either are multidimensional, happy, or who are geeky and engaged and are the ones who really learn from the system. A large mass is kind of
disconnected. Are you
So-
guys disconnected? Do you feel what you're learning in school is really not, I mean, it's something that you just have to do? Raise your hands if you feel that.
Look,
Okay, why is that so? Tell me, why is that so? Why do you feel?
So basically what I have studied all the 3 years in economics honors, I don't feel that I'm going to apply that in the practical world. And now I'm taking coaching classes for my MA entrance, and there is a constant struggle for my self-study time and to cope up with the material that have to be done with the coaching centers.
What do you think is the way forward? And, you know, nowadays you have all these teaching apps which say that you can do it in your own time and it's more considerate. Is that the way forward?
I think schools, especially the middle band, leave aside the elite schools, leave aside the very poor schools, I think they are really in deep trouble. There is a huge shortage of teachers. There's a even bigger problem of quality teachers. There is a problem with the way teaching is done. I mean, in today's age and time, we talk about learning outcomes as a big achievement. I mean, something trivial that everybody should have done, 25 years ago.
25 years back, but we didn't do it.
It's a very standard sort of thing to do. Why are you teaching a course? What do you want students to learn? There are a lot of other things that kind of make schools even worse. You have the boards coming up with new regulations every time. Many times they catch on to fancy buzzwords, like for example, continuous comprehensive evaluation. You have no teachers. Teachers don't even understand what it means. You have you don't have the number of teachers required to actually execute a scheme like that.
We need to have a counselor at each school for children as well as parents. We must do that. Right. And we need to regulate education in a way that every child should not just aspire to go to IIT.
I think that's a good point for me to stop. A big thank you to my panel and my young audience. And here's a huge shout out to all the parents and students out there that no matter what, nothing is worth taking your life and nothing is worth pressurizing anyone so much that they go and commit suicide. Thank you all for joining me today.